Hello everybody and welcome back to PaperFree. Today I have a spooky, scary video for you. Because yesterday I ordered some dark web shit off the dark web. Before we see what's inside, I want everybody to know that I put my life in jeopardy and literally died in order to get this package. So everybody better subscribe and like and watch and share and all that other shit. Are you ready to see what's inside my dark web shit box? Alright, here we go! What's this? I've grabbed something! What could it be? Oh my goodness! It's some boring shit! So pretty much everybody has this tendency to make something that is unknown to most people sound much scarier than it really is. And this is the case with the dark web. I mean, hell, it even has this really kind of ominous, scary name, the dark web. Ooh! And this is what a lot of YouTubers are doing nowadays. They understand that not a lot of people know much about the dark web, and that it has this reputation as being this like dark, scary place, so they play that up for views. So in this video, we're gonna answer two questions. What is the dark web, and why do I believe that it's really not that scary and kind of overblown in pop culture? So to answer that first question, what is the dark web? The dark web really is just a certain section of the internet that you require a specific software to access. And the main point of the dark web is two things. Number one, having your website be purposefully difficult to access. And number two, to remain completely anonymous. So how much of the internet is the dark web? I'm sure you've seen the iceberg analogy before, and we'll play into that. Just note the numbers I'm gonna bring up are kind of, at best, guesses and are kind of arbitrary, but they give you a general sense as to the scope of the dark web and the other sections of the internet. So the first section of the internet is the surface web. The surface web, simply put, is any website that you can access via a search engine, and that includes Google, Bing, Yahoo, DuckDuckGo. If you type something into that search engine, anything you find in the results is on the surface web. It has been indexed by a search engine, and thus can be accessed by pretty much everyone. And percentage-wise, it is estimated that the surface web takes up anywhere between 5% and 10% of the internet. So, just via a search engine, you can access about 5 to 10% of any web page that is on the internet. Next up, we have the deep web, which is simply put any web page you cannot access via a search engine. And the deep web often gets confused with the dark web because, again, it's got this ominous, kind of creepy name to it. But the deep web consists of things that are very, very tame usually. For example, your Facebook news feed is on the deep web. You cannot search up someone else's news feed on Facebook. You can only access it yourself. Thus, it's on the deep web. Other examples include, lots of different social media platforms such as Twitter. Your Twitter news feed is on the deep web. Bank accounts, health records are on the deep web. And the deep web is the largest portion of the internet. And again, this is an estimate, but it takes up usually about 85 to 91% of the internet. And then we have the dark web, and by order of elimination and basic math, you know that the dark web takes up about 4 to 5% of the internet. Okay, so that's the basics of the different sections of the web. And now before we really dive into the dark web, we need to talk about a little bit of technical information. So we're gonna start by talking about the Tor browser itself. If you are browsing the internet on a regular web browser, such as Safari or Google Chrome, and you visit a website, that website will see your IP address, which is a router-specific number that will give them information as to your whereabouts. So Tor was developed originally by the United States government because this is a problem if a government agency is looking at, let's say for example, a cult's website, and every time they visit that website, that cult can see that, oh wow, people from Washington sure are visiting my website a lot. So what Tor does is it takes your IP address, puts it through a number of channels, and spits out a random ass IP address so that when you visit that website, instead of showing that someone from Washington is visiting your website, it will show that someone from Indonesia is visiting your website, or Uruguay, or South Africa, or wherever. So this solved one problem, which means that you are now able to browse the internet anonymously. No website you visit will be able to tell where your IP address is actually coming from. However, it brings up another issue, which is, again, if you are an American cult, and most of your IP address, and most of the IP addresses that visit your website are from the United States, and all of a sudden you're getting some really random IP addresses from, again, those countries that I've listed beforehand. However, there's anonymity in numbers. So the United States government released this software to the general public. So now, if you are an American cult and you see that a few random ass IP addresses have been visiting your website, it's more likely than not that it is just someone who is using the Tor network with the hope of staying anonymous, as opposed to, being a government agent spying on your website. But Tor also allows you, the user, to browse .onion web pages. The same way the surface and deep web are built usually on .com, .ca, .org websites, .onion websites are specific only to the dark web. And the dark web is the only place you can find .onion websites. .onions are built off the same technology as Tor, because if you are a website, you also just have an IP address attached to your website. So what it'll do is it'll take your IP address, put it through a number of channels, and it'll spit out a random IP address that only a specific piece of software is able to connect to. So the final piece of technical information we're going to talk about is Bitcoin. And that's because Bitcoin is the currency of choice on the dark web. Why is that, you might ask? Well, Bitcoin is an anonymous currency. Bitcoin is purely just data that we give monetary value the same way regular money is cotton that we give monetary value. When you set up a Bitcoin wallet, you are given a number for your Bitcoin wallet. That number is not tied to location, it's not tied to whereabouts, it's not tied to any individual. It is just an arbitrary number of a holding place for that data. I am able to send someone Bitcoin as long as I have their Bitcoin wallet number and not have any idea where that Bitcoin was sent. Do you get that the whole point of the dark web is anonymity? It's the whole point. It's the whole shtick, Okay, so basically that is what the dark web is. We've answered our first question. We've talked about the technical information, we talked about what it is. Now let's talk about why it's not that scary. And we're going to start with, what are you mostly going to find on the dark net? I can tell you that I mostly found 5 things: directories, marketplaces, forums, general information, and services. But anyways, marketplaces, you will often find websites that'll sell things like guns, drugs, credit card information. However, I would like to note that there is no quality control on the dark web. You have to be very, very careful with scams on the dark web. The first thing I will say is that if you pay for anything on the dark web with a credit card, it's 100% a scam. And you might get your credit card information stolen. So don't do it. If you pay with Bitcoin, it might be a little bit more legitimate. But again, it's a massive risk because there is likely no forum out there or no place where you can go to check the legitimacy of that website. Then we have databases. What happens is on the dark web, .onion websites are pretty much randomized because, again, anonymous. So you can often find these large catalogs, basically, of different websites that are supposed to kind of help you navigate the dark web a little bit easier. Most of the time, if you're going through one of these directories, 3/4 of these websites, of the websites that they list, will not go anywhere, and that is completely normal. About 1/4, again, will bring you certain places, and usually, again, to places like marketplaces or services or something like that. You will likely never find anything too intense on directories. Next up, we have services. There are dark web emails you can set up, dark web social medias. Facebook has a dark web branch of its website. There are a lot of things that you can do on the surface web that you can also do on the dark web, except it's all now anonymous. And in fact, if you want to interact with the dark web a little bit more in depth, you likely will want to set up some sort of an email system on the dark web so you can email different people. Then there's just general information. When I was browsing the dark web, you can find leaked information, you can find whistleblower information, you can find blueprints, you can find, cult websites, lots of different things that I wouldn't really necessarily categorize as anything particular. It's just kind of stuff you can come across. Usually this stuff isn't that illegal, and you can kind of interact with it on a surface level and not really feel like you're getting into any trouble. Obviously, if you're on like a marketplace and you buy like drugs, that's illegal. Like, that's full-blown illegal. And I definitely don't recommend you do it. But if you just looking at information on the dark web, you won't get in any trouble. Now, the last thing we're going to talk about our forums. And this is going to segue into the final section of this video, which is the scary stuff you can find on the dark web, but you're not going to unless you are actively going to do something illegal. And let me talk about that a little bit. You know, if you are doing something very illegal, and I'm talking things like certain kinds of pornography, which are, you know. These people that run these websites are not dumb. They are fully aware of just how illegal what they are doing is and how much trouble they will get in if they are found out or caught with that website. So, oftentimes, what they will do is they will hide the majority of their website behind a username and a password login. Oftentimes, if you bump into one of these websites, there will be no information. There might be an email address you can contact, but that is really it. If you want to gain access to one of these forums, what you will likely have to do is either be invited from someone that, you know, in that community, or you will have to reach out to that email address and go through a series of tests in order to gain a username and password login to gain access to the website. Let's, for example, talk about something that's maybe not super intense, because there's a lot of intense things you can find there. And let's talk about maybe, how do I talk about illegal pornography without just instantly disturbing half the audience and getting demonetized? It's tough. I don't know. The bestiality. Let's go fucking bestiality. Animals. It sucks. You shouldn't do it. If you're a bestiality forum that hosts bestiality content, you are fully aware that that's illegal. And you're fully aware that if, you know, a government agency finds that website and is able to track you down, you're going to be arrested for the rest of your life. So, again, these people want to make it actively as difficult as possible for you to gain access to that website. And again, the two ways to gain access to a forum, if you stumble across a username password login with no information, is invite. So that person that produces bestiality content knows you, they trust you, they will give you access to the website. Or you contact that email and you're oftentimes going to have to prove yourself. You're going to have to send that person content of you perpetrating that sexual deviancy, or some sort of proof that you are legitimate and a part and willing to help consume and distribute that content on the forum. So, unless you are specifically looking to gain access to those kinds of websites, you will not stumble across them. If you stumble across them, you will find probably, again, a very plain login screen with very little information, and that is the furthest you are going to get, unless you actively do something illegal. And that's why I believe the dark web really is not that scary. Most of the stuff on the dark web is scams, information, directories, marketplaces, you know, basic things like that. Obviously, if you buy something from a marketplace or hire the services of a hitman or whatever, that's illegal. You know, just visiting those websites is not illegal, and you are not going to get in trouble. You're not going to get hacked. Nothing like that's going to happen. And if you are just browsing around, you are never going to come across really intense stuff. Because again, the people who run those websites know what they are doing. They know the kind of content that they are putting out there. They are going to keep that hidden as much as they possibly can. So anyways, that is what the dark web is. And that is why it's not really all that scary. It's just kind of... I am not going to interact with the dark web. I'm not going to buy anything illegal. I read some web pages of some leaked information and like some, you know, culty stuff. But, you know, it's kind of interesting, but it's also just kind of boring. It's just kind of information you can find on the surface web too. You know? I think it's worth experiencing if you're interested. But the creepy music, the ordering things, you know, the stalking that is allegedly happening on the dark web, it's probably all just a thing. It's a show, a front, you know. Views are juicy to a lot of people. They will lie to you to get views. My name is PaperFree Chris. This is the PaperFree channel. Remember to subscribe if you liked this video, you found it informative, or at least somewhat fucking entertaining. I don't know. And yeah, the dark web is fine. It's a place. It's a thing. You know, it's no scarier than like the surface web. You can get like hacked and stalked. That can happen there too. Nothing scary about the surface web either.